Hello, I'm Chris Solo, and welcome to the Fabled 42, where we build community through friendship, gaming, and chaos. You're watching Quests and Answers, and you can catch us every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific here at twitch.tv/Fabled42. But before we get started, we're going to dive into our announcements, and then we'll do some panelist introductions. And we will take any of your questions in the Twitch chat, so go ahead and at either myself at Fabled42 or myself at DM Chris Solo. They're both in the chat, so just say, hey, I want to ask this question, and I will field it as quickly as possible. So, everything that you see that's 3D printed in any of our streams is brought to you by Griffin Co. We are Vorpal powered. Our video and audio displays, player indicators, digital dice, zoom features on the battle map are all brought to you by Vorpal Board. Have a lot of exciting things happening this week. We have the last episode of Wizards of Ukador, freshman year, is tonight after this stream. We'll be hosting a giveaway between shows, and I will announce that code later on today. I might do a mini, or I might do a video game. Haven't decided yet. But UkadorCon launches this week. Just to give you a taste, because I've been a bad DM and founder, because I haven't posted the schedule yet. But I will post this tomorrow. But this starts on Wednesday. So we have an opening ceremony at 4 o'clock, which is me and some of the producers just saying hi and thank you and, you know, where this came from. Just like 30 minutes. We'll dive into the rollout. We'll jump into the next episode of Realms of Ukador. Thursday morning, we do not stream anything because those are community games. So a lot of you have already, subbed up to, signed up for these games. Chris is DMing one I wanted to play in, but I couldn't, because it filled up immediately. But no, it was fun. It's super adorable, so I'm super excited. The first actual event of UkadorCon is Thursday afternoon at 2 p.m. Pacific for Crafting Compelling Stories. Followed up, that'll be a longer panel. And then we have another show that night at 6 p.m. Pacific, which Anne McDonald, who played Denahi, is DMing a Halloween game. Very exciting. The next morning, Friday morning, we have Villains of Ukador at 8 a.m., that's going to be ridiculous. I'm not even ready for this. Followed by, at 2 p.m. Pacific, map making. Then 4 p.m. Pacific, Peace of Mind, Diane Hall. The Pretty DM will be DMing their first of two different all-female one-shots. So that's really exciting for that. The next morning, Saturday morning, another community stream in the beginning. We have the first episode of DMocracy. I don't want to tell you too much, but we have 3 DMs that have built a world together, and they're going to run 3 simultaneous campaigns separately in said world. It's very exciting. They're going to talk to you more about it. I don't have anything to do with it. I actually just saw it and just watched it all just do things. It's very exciting. But our DMs are GW, Thor, and Stuart. So they will introduce themselves during that panel. That is at 2 p.m. on Saturday morning Pacific. Followed by Diane's second Peace of Mind at 4 p.m. Pacific. Jumping into Sunday. Almost done, guys. Sunday morning, Heroes of Ukador at 8 a.m. The Crafting Your Homebrew Game panel is at 2. And the Mythical Melee finale, this guy might have made something really ridiculous for said game. Maybe.
I'm scared.
No promise. No promises. But that finale is that Sunday night. The Art of Roleplay is the this time next week's show. So we're going to talk about the Art of Roleplay leading up to, this is why this is a really long thing, Diane Hall, the Pretty DM's very first game of Legends of Shalgal is next Monday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. That's what we've been leading up to this whole month of Wizards and everything else is leading up to Diane's game. Very, very exciting because April also has an awesome game coming up in a couple weeks too, but we'll tease that a little bit later.
Yes.
Last but not least, I swear to God I'm done. I came up with this really cool idea, and I pitched it to April's husband, who kind of works in this industry, and me and him were launching a Kickstarter that's supposed to be going live on Wednesday, but it might be a little bit later. It's called Dungeon Tiles, patent pending. Very, very excited. We have 3 different sizes. These are ABS plastic dungeon tiles, dungeon trays, that you can put any 3D terrain on. You can put Dwarven Forge, Warlock tiles, or just normal 3D terrain. It's a tray that keeps them together. Guess what? No clips. No clips, guys. No fucking clips. That's my Kickstarter. Launching soon. More information. Here we go.
Cool.
I'm very excited about that. So let's get into panelist introductions. We'll start with April and then wrap around.
Okay. My name is April Hill. You can find me at _Creator on Instagram. You can also see me on Wednesdays. I play an Air Genasi wizard for Realms of Yukador. I'm also in Wizards and other various one-shots. I'm going to be in a couple of the one-shots this weekend. So, yeah. Oh, and happy birthday, Diane.
Yes, happy birthday, Diane.
Whoa, happy birthday.
Okay,
Tristan.
Hey guys, I'm Tristan. I am at +1 Crafting. I'm used to pointing down at things. I don't know where my finger's supposed to go. You can catch me on Adventures in Middle Earth. I play the hot-headed Tauren dwarf slayer.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
As hard as I possibly can. And I get into every one-shot that I possibly can. I'm really bummed also that I didn't get into Sizemore's one-shot for Ukhdorcon. It's adorable. It's no other way to put it.
Awesome.
But yeah, I hang out with these nerds as often as possible.
Awesome.
Sizemore.
Me? Yeah, I'm Chris Sizemore. I'm putting my finger down. You can find me at DM Jarpo. I sometimes post there. Mostly, I need to do more on it, really, to be honest.
You do, because you make so many awesome things. I'm like, why does he never post?
You can find me for mastering or DMing for Adventures in Middle Earth, taking the dwarf around some craziness, and this guy up here.
Oh,
who's
sorry,
lost a
wrong hand. Wrong hand. This hand.
Wrong hand. There you go. One-handed Dunedain Ranger through the Middle Earth landscape and doing stuff there. That runs once a month. Now moving to twice a month, starting the 25th.
Yeah.
On Sundays.
So excited.
I have a one-shot.
Yeah, that's so I'm so excited for that. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're
We
fine.
need more.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be good.
Yeah. So
I'm in the
no, go ahead.
I'm in the mythical melee with this
I know.
this gal. Got it. This gal here.
always
In the
awesome.
finale, I'm excited about that. Playing a little old lady. She
And
is-
this one is going to stand in. I know we're both
Please,
the old
okay.
ladies of the group.
Was that confirmed? Was that confirmed? I don't know if we confirmed that.
I don't know.
Yeah, because we Keith had to step down from Mythical Melee, but he still wanted his Goblin Barbarian to fight in the event. And since I'm going to be there anyway, I might do it. He may or may not have a vendetta for a nice old lady who's right below him. I don't know. He definitely doesn't have anything to fight back, so it might be a quick fight.
Yeah.
But no, it's be exciting.
Lastly, I'm in Diane's campaign that's starting soon.
Yeah.
I play a little gnome artificer, so look forward to silly voices and cantankerous oldness once more.
I really love your character art for that guy. The slingshot is amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, so to piggyback on the Adventures of Middle Earth, so starting on the 25th is our first episode back, full steam ahead. Every other week following that, and if you get confused, Middle Earth and River Break are always on the same weekend. So we have River Break Saturday morning, and then we'll have Adventures of Middle Earth Sunday night. So they're both alternating every other week. So some months we'll have 3 sessions, some months we'll have 2. But that's really exciting. Lots of shenanigans. I should have died last episode, but that's cool. Amazing rolls.
There's so many
Die
episodes you should
faster.
die.
But let's get into what we're talking about today, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about crafting, like home crafting, and everything in between. So as we get started, again, the chat just DM just at either Fable42 or DM Chris Solo, and I'll see your questions and I will field them in the thing. But let's talk about what's the best thing? How did you get into making your own stuff?
Well, I will go in first. I started it with I started DMing Adventures League, and then I started doing maps and drawing intricate maps on the Chessex grids with the markers and whatnot. And I had some cool drawings, but then I saw somebody do another YouTuber, a crafting YouTuber. He did a very simple one that I was like, I could do that, and it seems very versatile. It's his own little product. Uh, Dungeon Craft is the guy, and he has this ultimate dungeon terrain, which is like this circular um, grid that you can kind of put scattered terrain on it. And I thought I could do that, and so I tried, and I was like, oh, I can do that. It's not that hard, and started piecemealing and getting better at it from there. How about you all? Where did you guys start?
Tristan?
Um, so actually, I started in a very similar way. Started DMing for a group of friends, and they were all first-time D&D players. None of them had ever played any kind of tabletop RPGs, and I also had one of the like big, awful, smelly Chessex things that you can't ever get to flatten out, and a bunch of markers. And it's fine, it works. But what I found was my new players were having difficulty like visualizing what they were doing. So I started looking at. I wanted to get some terrain. I watched Critical Role. I knew what was up. So I started looking at Dwarven Forge and all that kind of stuff, and I realized that I'm super poor. And
In relation.
so, yeah, right. So I found somebody on YouTube. I found Black Magic Craft and Luke Talon and DM Scotty and just this whole community of people, excuse me, who are making awesome stuff. And I too thought, I can do that. And then I started making stuff, and some of it came out really nice, and some of it came out and went immediately into the garbage.
Yeah.
But I started crafting because I wanted to give my players a good experience. I wanted to have all the cool stuff that you see on all the really popular streams, like the stuff on Fable 42, and it wasn't feasible unless I was making myself.
Yep.
So I started making it myself.
April.
Well, so for my home games, I've only DM'd on online, but I have played my other home games. Before Corona, we would basically play on a battle map. Some of them would bring little pieces of terrain and stuff. But when I was presented with the opportunity to have my own show on the Fabled Fortitude Network, Chris was like, so are you going to do theater of the mind? And I said, hell no.
That was the right answer.
Because
on this channel, are you kidding?
I'm not, I love the stuff, all the stuff, but like Tristan, like you said, I can't afford all the stuff. But I've always been really into art. Like I make all kinds of art. And so I was like, I was like, okay, I'm going to watch all these tutorials. I followed all these makers. Like I love watching tutorials. Eric's Hobby Workshop, Encounter Terrain, who has a competition going on right now. They do Joe does a monthly competition, and does it's a little 4x4 grid that you have to like create something on. It's really cool. But yeah, watching all these crafters and stuff, and I was like, I can do this. But yeah, there's been trial and error. I've learned a lot, grown a lot, making stuff. I love it. Like it's so addicting. Like taking something that's just like a pile of rubbish and then turning it into something that people are like, is that real? Like when you take a picture of it, it's like, is that this size, or is that like a real thing? It's so cool. So satisfying.
All very awesome and interesting ways that you all have gotten into crafting. My story, really quickly, actually has nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons. 2000, I can't remember. A long time ago, I actually started my film making career as a stop motion animator. So I would make my little sets. We started with 2D sets, camera down, then we started doing like three-dimensional stuff. So buying tiles and things was never my thing. So it was always trying to create your atmosphere or your depth of field with the trees or everything that's going on with a physical thing, and then you could animate your creature in the background, which is really tedious for the back, by the way. It's terrible. Since then, I switched to more live action stuff. I don't know if you've ever tried stop motion. It's really tedious. It's like move something like a half a centimeter and you take a photo, and you move it a half a centimeter and you take a photo, and like everything is like it's really crazy. But then I got into D&D a couple years ago, much like you guys, right? So like trying to create this thing, we were in the same room, so I was trying to create these little sets that I would kind of bring out, on the normal foam core, right? Like the little 1/4-inch foam core pieces, you build something on it and you walk out and you put it out there, right? And it started with like the little paper, Michael's grass. And then sometimes I would get like the paper maps with the grids on it, and I would like iron it out and like put it on there, and I would glue it, and then I would put 3D things on top of a paper map sort of thing. And as Ukador has evolved, I jumped into, like the foam stuff. This stuff is really, really cheesy, but it's like your IKEA bed foam. But if you chop it up and then you paint it, it looks like really, really quick snow rock wall, right? And it's super long because this is my background.
Oh my god.
So it's legitimately just meant to hit that back wall that I have and then kind of curve. But Tristan made like a super amazing wall that we've used for a lot of our interior mountain stuff, which is like super tall. That's really good for flight stuff. But yeah, that's kind of how it starts, right? You start coming in and you make it work, right? Like I know we talked about on our last crafting thing. I actually just got rid of them, but those remember those sewing kits we talked about when Nate? So I actually made a bunch of those, and it was really cool. My kids played with them, and then they all kind of broke. And then Griffin Co. sent me like a giant box of these things, and I was like, well, I'm going to use these things because these are sturdy. But that's kind of how it goes. It's like it evolves, right? So I make something really cool, and then I make something better, or someone makes something better for me, and then I kind of like, here you go, son, you can play with this until it breaks, and then we can throw it away. Like, but and let's talk about that. Let's talk about like the quality of the stuff, right? Because like I make some stuff that is like functional and it looks good on screen, and I really like Tristan used to get frustrated. He's like, man, stop using those real rocks. Because I would use found objects, right? So I'd go out in the woods and I'd find old pieces of wood and like real rocks, and I would make them look like boulders, and it would work. But Tristan's boulders are amazing. So, but I want to hear more about the three of you as you continue to do the things that you're doing. What are some tips and tricks to? I mean, not everybody can make Dwarven Forge stuff. Actually, this is my only set of Dwarven Forge, and this is old resin stuff, but the quality is still there. It's still like pretty cool. It's very detailed, but I'm sure any of you could make something that looks just like this, if not better. But so like what are some tricks and tips for someone who's getting started with making terrain?
Do not spray paint styrofoam close up. Don't do it. It melts it. Oh god.
Same thing with a heat gun. Same thing with a heat gun.
Oh.
Heat is bad for styrofoam.
The propellant melts the styrofoam and your beautiful piece that you just crafted. It just melts.
It's all super toxic too. Like, yeah.
Well, spray paint, yeah.
It's against the Geneva Convention. The fumes off of that. Terrible.
Oh, it's pretty terrible. Yeah. Like, I've spray painted a lot of my tiles, and I've also tried to super glue them. Before I got to these trays, I used to try to super glue them, and I don't know if you know that, but like super glue and this whatever product this is 3D printed from,
It'll
It
melt
sets
it.
it sets off like literally like knockout
Oh.
gas fumes, and I had no idea. Just super glue, regular super glue. I was like, "Ooh, why am I so dizzy? Like I need to get out of here. Like this is weird." What are some other what are some other tips?
Well, I think probably the most important tip that we can give right now is only craft in a well ventilated area, um,
That's fair.
just for safety's sake. Um, but don't sweat the small stuff. Like, and this is something April and I have talked about, and I think I've talked about it with Sizemore a couple of times too. That like I'll get so hung up on details and something that I'm working on that it takes 3 times as long as it should. In fact, there's stuff that Solo's still waiting on that I haven't finished.
I don't know what you're talking
Um,
about.
I
I know
still
exactly.
want my trees.
And I've got those on the shelf over here.
I know it.
But don't get so hung up on making things that are perfect that you don't make anything at all.
Yeah.
Like this,
Oh,
like
yeah.
crafting should be a fun experience. It should be a thing that you do to relax and enhance your game, and like it should be something that you enjoy, not something that's like stressing you out. So, also, speaking of found objects, and I remember that conversation about the rocks. That's why you got those hills in the first place.
I know.
You had these like there was like still dirt and like goose poop on it, and I was like, this.
I
that's
still use them.
terrible.
I still use them. I mix
I
and match.
know. No.
They
Did
look
you
good.
say
You can't even
goose
tell.
poop?
You can't even
Goose
tell. You can't even tell.
He's gonna try
He's
to.
gonna go get the. He's gonna go get the.
Yeah.
rocks.
He's gonna try to make it like make a point. And
I am, because like this rock, when you have it on the table, it has a normal face and it looks really cool. But, as Tristan would say,
it's out of scale.
but you can't tell that. There's big boulders that you can't tell. But here's Tristan's, which is very amazing, by the way. His grass. I sometimes put snow on it and make it snowy. I put it on the water and make it look like a little island. I do a lot of fun things. But you look at the face of his stones, and then you look at the face of this stone. They're very similar. This feels more real
better.
because there's different textures to it, and it's not just a rock sitting in the ground. But usually I embed the rocks in sand and everything. That's just giving Tristan a hard time. I use his stuff. This is usually like background stuff. Because I don't have enough
It's
else.
fine. You just made my rocks look really good.
Yeah.
Found stuff is not a problem though. Like, I've got an old. I'm not gonna eat it out, but I've got an old coffee can full of like rocks and like old not styrofoam, but tinfoil balls and stuff that I use to texture bricks. And I've got some fancy tools, but you don't need like any of that stuff. Like you need a good sharp knife and some time, and like these craft paints are 50 cents at Walmart.
Yep.
So like, everybody talking about watching a YouTube video and being like, oh, I can do that. Like, you can. Like everybody who's watching this
Really
can. If you put a little bit of time in, if you want to,
Yeah.
Or you can find.
I'm not an artist, and I could do it. That's surprising to me, for sure.
No, I've seen some of your
Yeah,
stuff.
your stuff's good. Yeah.
It is.
There's a short-
I have some of his stuff in here too. Hang on.
Another tip while he's pulling that out, and this is maybe just for me.
I use these all the time. The cavern pieces all the
They're
time.
so
Yeah.
versatile.
They're very versatile. Yeah, for me, and this might be for everyone else or some other people who might find this useful, but if I don't finish the project in a day or two, then it's not going to be finished. That's just who I am. If I have it set aside, it's going to continue to sit aside. And it's just, I could build a house. I was like, okay, it's nice, it's great. I'll paint it later. And I just never got back to it until it's months later. I look at it, nah, I'm not gonna do it. I'm doing something else now. I'm focused in on this project, and I've forgotten completely about that one, and I just don't have the inspiration to go back to it. So maybe for some of you out there, you might find it useful to make it to where you start a project that you can finish in a couple days.
Especially starting out.
Yeah.
The big
Yeah,
part, like
yeah.
you're like, I'm going to make, like starting out, I'm going to make this huge coliseum and it's going to be awesome. And then you start it and you're like,
Yeah.
what have I done? This
Yeah.
is taking forever.
Start
Like,
small, and like you could always you can always just redo stuff like this little snow cap, which I'm not a fan of my paint job, but you can't tell from the cameras because everything's for cameras, and I sprinkle snow on there anyway. But this is just another squishy foam. But you spray paint it or you paint it and it becomes hard. But this used to be green and it looked really terrible, and then it eventually became snow. Like you can keep using the same stuff, and if you don't like it, you cut it into other pieces and you keep repurposing it. Got a lot of, oh my god, I hate being tethered. I just stepped on my cord.
yeah. Fun fact about that spray paint incident. It was a house made of foam. So it melted it, but we discussed it and I was like, this is a burnt down house. Fits perfect in the
Yes.
landscape of Fallout. I'm just gonna like punch some holes in it and tear it
There
up
you
a little bit more. Burnt house.
There you go.
Embrace the
We're using
mistake.
it.
Embrace. It's just like you're a DM. The players think you did it on purpose, and you're like, "Yep, that was my plan." You have no
Absolutely,
idea.
yeah.
I did that on
Yeah,
purpose.
No mistakes, just happy accidents.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of questions, so I'm gonna throw some questions out at y'all.
Sure.
Is there a particular genre, horror, sci-fi, modern, that any of you avoid for any number of reasons when you make your own terrain? I don't do anything modern or sci-fi for two reasons. One, I don't have the stuff for it. Everything that's in this office room right now, my studio, is all fantasy genre. Usually for like sci-fi and stuff, I do theater of the mind, unless they go into like a cave, and then I can do a cave if I wanted to. But that's more just because I don't have anything for that stuff. It might be fun though. I'm very jealous of Fallout right now.
And so I'm pretty much the opposite of you right now because mine, I'm staying away from like the Dungeons and Dragons feel of like medieval, like that, the time frame and stuff. And mine's very like nowadays, but more like, well, you know how Fallout is. So they stopped like in the 50s, 60s, everything looks like old timey. So, which I love it so much. I love it so.
That is cool. Yeah. I've seen your stuff. It's awesome. I'm excited for it.
Thanks.
I would say that for me, and this might be reflective on everybody else, but because I'm crafting for the game, I'm only making stuff associated with that. It's not that I have an aversion to a theme. It's just I'm not DMing that theme right now. And if I do start DMing that theme, then I would be crafting that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually what I was going to say is, you build for what you're doing, right? So, you figured out how to make all this fantasy stuff. You can figure out how to make, sci-fi or horror or whatever else. It's necessity, I guess, to figure that stuff out. I have tried to make some more modern stuff to varying degrees of success, but something about like fantasy and medieval style stuff is a little more forgiving because it's weathered and you can make mistakes and stuff like that. So I would definitely maybe say don't start out trying to make stuff with hard lines
very
and
good.
Yeah.
perfect things.
I like that. Someone brought up and they said they like how I make my sets every week. I'm actually not. I mean, I craft some things like backgrounds and stuff like that, but I'm not a crafter. I'm a set dresser, right? So like, I take the awesome things that you guys have made and you've sent me, and I use them in the thing, or I use 3D things, and I use other elements and I keep adding to it. Like I have a box of white sand from the dollar store, right? I have another box of black sand from the dollar store. And then I have regular sand from, I think, Ace Hardware or something. But going back to Chris's thing, whether or not it's Chris's cave tiles or Tristan's rocks, it doesn't matter, right? This is my thing. This is going to lead into the next question, is repurposing cave and rocks into something else, right? So I can put Chris's pieces, which I did for our last Adventures in Middle Earth crazy set that I built, was real rocks, these sets, the foam sets, stacking them on top of each other, then adding the white sand on top of it, along with Tristan's wall that gave us this ravine, which was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to build. But I'm using different products and different things to do it differently, right? So I can take Chris's tile here, put it on some sort of charcoaled ground, add black sand, all of a sudden it's lava or some sort of volcanic ash. Same scenario, I put it on my snow base and put a little white snow on here, then you're in the snow. So you can keep using these pieces over and over and over and over again, completely differently than the last time. And same thing with Tristan's rocks. So, talking about that, did you have a vision when you made like these two items or any items that you would make it so their modularity would be able to be used over and over again in different ways?
Absolutely. I think that building like a set piece, like a diorama almost, is cool, and it's super rewarding and super fun. But for the game, like for what we do with it, it doesn't make any sense at all, right? Like when I was building the wall, I was in contact with Chris a lot about, what do you want it to look like? What do you want the paint to look like? Because in essence, it was a set piece. But in talking about it, we built something that was and is versatile, right? I don't know about you guys, but I don't have, a huge amount of room to store, 100 different. I mean, some of us do. This guy.
This is a 10 by 10 room. I am in tight right now. Like art station table. I have shelves everywhere. I'm like,
he's a good packer.
I am.
He's a good packer. But yeah, make things modular. Like don't shoehorn yourself into something that you're only going to be able to use once, because you spend a bunch of time on it. You don't have to spend a bunch of money on it, but you're going to spend a little bit of money on it and a bunch of time, and then get to use it once, and your player's going to be like, "Oh my god, that was so cool," and then it's going to go in a box, and you're never going to look at it again. Like, that's dumb. Don't do that. Make stuff that you can use again and again and again, and just be creative with it.
Scatter terrain is fantastic when it comes to versatility, and also for carrying it around to once COVID is gone and people are meeting up again, because I would do that every week with my home game, go to the local gaming store and lug all my stuff around, and having small things that you can carry is convenient.
Like dungeon
as opposed to carrying like a big like set piece or something, that kind of thing. So modularity is definitely, you can stick with some simple stuff, maybe make some terrain modular pieces, which is what I did. The cave terrain that you use is one of my first ones I did, and it was a set with like some other pieces like crystals and stalactites, stalagmite, that kind of stuff to go with it. But you could also just make little modular stuff and start working on a map. Scatter terrain chairs or desks or something to elevate the play.
Yeah, well, you talked about the Chess X, like map things. Like one of those and some scatter terrain, it can be anything.
Yeah.
Right. That's awesome. Do that.
Another question is, what is your favorite medium and product to use in crafting? Pull out some of that paint foam.
Pink
XPS,
stuff and foam. Pink
XPS
stuff and
foam.
foam. Yep. That's
Yep, that's my stuff.
so much foam.
Is that inch or is that 2 inch?
This is inch, and normally I work in half inch. But I'm actually making some stuff for Andy at Griffin Co. and what we did. So I'm using 1/2 inch.
This is my
Plaster.
Yeah, this is my first attempt with the 1/2 inch or with the full inch. I remember I did the heat gun, so I spray painted it black, and then I did the heat gun, and I put this on top of my orange and red mats, so then like the lava kind of peeks through.
Yeah.
I did this inside, guys, because I'm an idiot.
Mistake.
I almost died. But yeah, there's another one. But yeah, I mean, it's so. There's so many things you can do this. Like my cityscapes, I'm not gonna pull them down, but you know how like I used to draw the really kind of janky city streets. That was all with the XPS foam. Like so much you can do with that.
Well, and like,
And it's cheap.
there's.
Oh yeah, that's so cool.
I mean, it takes texture really well. It takes paint really well. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super lightweight.
It's super lightweight. This is.
Oh yeah, you're great.
I guess you're not really right, but
That's what you made the wall with, right? But that was like 1/2 inch, right?
that was 1/2 inch, yeah.
see if I
There's,
can get it.
there's some inch in that. The other thing that's also super cheap is plaster. That's gonna wash out. That's not good.
So this is part of Tristan's wall. Like it's very hard. It adds things. You know, I add elements to it, but it is just 1/2 inch.
Yeah.
Boom.
Oh, you gotta show the back.
No one sees the back.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No,
it's the
I-
media.
You know,
I
it's funny.
I
So
don't normally.
what do you guys think about I go to pet stores a lot because I have like 55 pets. I got this, which is an aquarium
Oh.
thing,
Yeah.
Yep.
but it
Yeah.
looks cool, and it was like
Yeah.
I've tried it. There was one ship I saw once, but it was like $80. I was like, I'm not spending $80 on a boat, but because I only going to use it once, right? You know, it's one of those weird things. Like you only use it once. Like you remember that underwater set I did? I think I shared it with you guys. They were underwater, and I built that tape dome, and I hit it with the blue light, and it looked like it was underwater.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It took me like 2 days to make that tape thing, and then I never used it again. I folded it up and kind of stuck it in a shelf, and then I eventually just threw it away. But yeah,
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people use aquarium stuff, especially for like jungle settings and stuff, like the little
yeah.
plastic plants and stuff, and just foliage and stuff like that. And so, but I had never seen that beautiful rock thing. That was awesome.
There's an offshoot of crafters that are, tabletop crafters online. There's an offshoot of them who make terrariums, and you can look up that stuff if you're interested in finding other inspirational ideas. They use different materials. My mother started doing the same thing around the
that's
same
fun.
time I started crafting. She started crafting terrarium stuff, and we're using like the same materials and tools. Like, really, you got the same stuff? Wow. Okay, we got something to talk about now. Yeah, that kind of thing. But you can look up online, find some inspiration through the stuff they do. I think they use a lot of cement though for their stuff.
Yeah, that's weight.
Yeah, just a little
So
weight.
does it
A
float.
little
I
weight.
feel like everything we make.
It's funny.
Foam core is another great medium.
Yeah.
Very cheap. Dollar store foam core.
So much of that.
Yeah. I will say, only buy it from the dollar store, and only buy the stuff with the white paper on it, because the white paper, I mean, it peels off like it's supposed to peel off. It's not supposed to, but it's super easy to peel off. All the other colors don't peel well, and you can't texture the paper. So just
This was
just
the This was made from foam core and the pink stuff, the spackling. But yeah,
Oh.
yeah. So it's
That's
oh,
awesome.
and some dirt and paint. But yeah. So the foam core stuff is awesome.
super cheap.
Hmm.
I'm so
Just layer
excited
it.
about this panel.
And
Let's see.
Oh yes.
Oh my god.
my that's yeah. So each of these little barbed wires were a pain in the butt But I made a lot of these little barbed wire fences and then rustified the paint job on them. So those were fun. And then foam core on the bottom. So
Mhm.
Wow.
I can't help it.
Are there any details you have found in making terrain that always seem amazing on paper but never work in practice?
Coloring resin is really hard for water and making it, and like you have to really pay attention to how you do it, or it ends up super, and what you do it on, and because it can seem really murky or really bubbly in places where I don't know. Resin's a tricky mistress.
Yeah.
I would say.
If you're gonna do any kind of resin pour, you got to make sure you've got like hour and a half to commit to it, because you got to watch it like a hawk and hit it with flame and get bubbles out, and it's kind of a pain. It looks awesome, but it's definitely not fun.
And which kind of resin too? Because some resin, like the really cheap, quick resin, it's quick for a reason. It turns out like crap, I think. Like the good resin. If you're gonna do, unless you want something that's like crap. If you want something to look, I mean, if it's supposed to look like crap, then do that.
I found so you can go to Michael's. I don't know if everyone has a Michael's or not, but you can go to Michael's and pick up 2-part resin. It's usually there's some kind of coupon or whatever, but you can pick up a pretty decent size 2-part resin for like 10, $12. You gotta make sure that the lid stays on really tight or it dries out, but it works really well, and it's got a decently long shelf life. So
that's nice.
Something that never quite turns out the way that you want it to. Trees are tough.
Is that why you haven't finished them?
There's so many different ways to do them. There's so many styles of trees.
Yes, there are, Tristan.
Well, and listen, I'm super committed to. There's I've got a giant box of it, but I want to get up again. There's you can use all kinds of stuff. Like you've got little armatures. You can make. Somebody else talk. I am gonna get stuff for.
He's like, no, I'm gonna go get my trees.
Trees are great. I've made carved ones out of styrofoam. I've made wired ones where you twist the wire ones. Those are the coolest ones to make dead trees with. You don't have to do much with it. There you go. That's one of them. A little dead tree.
Yeah, this is Chris's tree.
You just twist it up and texture it, and you paint it. It's
and then cool. This is your foam cut one.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah, it's a little stump. It's a redwood.
Yeah, I use these in the background where you can't see the top, and it looks like they're taller. Great.
It's one of my trees. It's one of my wire trees.
Oh, nice. I love it.
But it's got the oven blade. So it's wire, then oven baked clay, and then the ends are coconut flour. I think super glue and coconut flour, and then painted. But yeah. And Encounter Terrain does his trees, all of his trees. He loves using what are they called? Pipe cleaner trees. He makes these huge pipe cleaner trees, super textured and crazy.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And then flocking them with shredded sponge, like that. Instead of using the super expensive like flocking and stuff, I'm like shredded sponge. Oh, there you go.
Stuff.
Oh, that looks amazing.
Awesome. That's cool.
But it sucks to work with. So Sizemore may recognize this. This is one of
like 15
super dope trees. And it's super flexible and just gorgeous. And I am absolutely gonna put these on it soon. But there's 1,000 different ways to make trees. You can get these little
evergreen.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And actually, I like to use these for deciduous trees too. You just snip off like every other branch and twist them around. And then you can do pipe cleaner. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, that's what. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Um,
I see it now. Yeah.
and then I can cover them with. This is just air dry clay.
Mm-hmm.
And then, after a huge amount of work, they end up looking like this.
So pretty.
And they look
Pretty cool.
pretty. I don't know if I can get this
Oh, that's good.
close enough, but
I'm sure you can post them in the Discord, right?
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that tree was amazing, and it's on a rock. I love it.
I've made the mistake of committing to a specific kind of tree that requires me to use materials that suck. And that's the thing that's always like on paper, it seems like it's going to be super awesome, and then it takes 4 years to make 2 trees. It's the thing. And Grant, I'm sorry. McCleric, check the Discord, you'll understand.
For me,
Oh, got it. Yeah.
I usually, on paper, because I'm not an artist, I think if I blend this color with this color, it's going to turn out like this. So I am terrible at blending colors. I've tried it multiple times and with the acrylics and going with it, but because I have no artistic background, I'm sure some person saying, "Oh yeah, you could look at paper and it makes sense." But for me, in my head, and which is my paper, it's not working. There's wires that are not wired correctly in there, and it just comes out the wrong way. That's always difficult for me, blending colors, especially for like oceans and water and stuff.
Oh.
Trying to blend those, I am terrible at those. Talk about the resin pouring, it made me think of it. Like resin, you gotta blend it together, but you have to make like a base underneath it too, of what the water would look like, and yeah, I'm bad at that.
Water is much greener than most people imagine.
Would think, yeah.
That's whatever's underneath, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we only have a few minutes left. Are there any other burning questions that any of you have for one another, or anyone in the chat has any burning questions for our panelists? I'm going to stay in the chat too during the break, so that we can answer other questions that you might have, or just continue the conversations. But yeah. Any other burning questions?
Hardest thing you guys have ever made, like like other than trees, like the coolest or most time consuming or hardest thing. Dang, snap.
Ooh.
It could be one of the three of those little questions. I guess I don't know.
That's a really good question. 'Cause I'm thinking more of my armature stop motion days, because I don't do much anymore. Yeah, I would say I made a what seemed to be a lake. Yeah, this is probably the hardest thing I ever made. So I made a layered lake for stop motion that had a minimal current. So there were like beads of water, like 2-inch wide and 10-inch long things of water that could move about an inch one way or the other. So I had to make 6 of those, and then just to give the water just a little bit of movement, because the animation was a little girl on a dock. I never finished the animation, unfortunately, but the set looked cool. Yeah, that was probably my toughest thing, which was ridiculous.
Carving
Probably
books.
Yeah, I was gonna say, probably the most time-consuming, probably the most time-consuming thing. The last commission that I put out, there was a circular bookcase about like this, that had, I didn't count them or anything, but about 340 books, because it was double-sided, and like 2 stacks. And I hand carved and hand painted and hand textured and hand washed, all
Oh,
of the books. And it looked pretty cool. But man, was it tedious. It took forever. Never doing that again. Don't,
don't ever
don't,
ask me.
Hey Tristan,
don't at me.
It was
I'm on your
so pretty.
account here. I got a commission for you. You
Right after,
familiar with libraries at all?
hate them. Hate them. Still, yeah,
It turned
Resin
out
is my
beautiful.
downfall.
triggered.
What?
It did look. I saw it was gorgeous, but yeah, resin.
Yeah.
I can't do resin. I'm terrible with that. So any project that involves resin, I haven't quite mastered yet, and I've steered away from it.
It's hard. Lots of
It's
practice.
hard.
Yeah.
Lots of practice and time.
Mm.
Yeah.
There is one last question in the chat. How do you price out a commissioned piece? Do you approach it as an artist or a contractor?
I haven't sold any of my, obviously, because I'm making for myself. I haven't sold any of my my terrain pieces, but I do hand paint shoes, and sometimes I'll help Cody make some dice trays, hand paint dice trays. So that it's a little blend of both because I know how long something like that's going to take me,
Yeah.
and then what my time is worth and stuff. So it's a mix of both for me on those things that I do. So the custom shoes and trays.
Solo still hasn't paid for my stuff that I've given him.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. You don't have to pay.
I was like, did I forget
It was
something?
free. No, no, I haven't sold any of my pieces. I did. The only time I ever thought about making money off of crafting was when a local convention, wanted to. They saw what I had set up for their past convention when I DM'd a table, and they said, "Well, you can do that for 15 tables next year." And so I put together a spreadsheet detailing everything that I thought it would cost, and it was mostly associated with the material costs. I didn't really price the material cost above that. I priced everything based on the hours that I put in. So I guess it was more from a contractual standpoint, like a contractor, as opposed to an artistic one. The cost of time put in, the hours.
Yeah.
And I think I put in like $15 or something like that, dollars an hour, I think. But because of COVID, it never happened. So
Aw.
yeah, that's a lot of work anyway. 15 tables, so that would have been a while.
That's yeah. You might have had to like subcontract some of that.
Yeah.
No, so like I've got some stuff on my Etsy store, and that's based on, like Dan said, how much time it's going to take me. Because I mean, like we've talked about, the materials aren't super expensive. Like you can buy an 8 foot by 4 foot sheet of XPS foam for like $15. You can get, foam core for $1. Most of the stuff, and I've got some money invested in tools and hot wire cutters and rock molds and different stuff, but none of that's going to into the price. It's all about how much time is this going to take me. So the stuff that's on my Etsy is priced based on the amount of time that I'm going to have to invest in it and shipping cost and everything else. Is, because believe it or not, when you're shipping something that's like 22 by 22, almost 3 feet by 3 feet, it's not cheap. So but yeah, commissions are, and I mean I do sell terrain, but yeah, commissions are always based on my time rather than material cost, or how pretty I think it is.
Aw, you're an artist. You're artistic.
Well,
Better pieces. I'm going jack this up.
Yeah.
no, you get the pretty for free.
Oh.
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for talking with us about crafting terrain. It's one of my favorite things to talk about because I love everything you guys are doing. I love using it as much as possible. But go ahead and real quick, just run through where people can find you, and then we'll say our goodbyes.
I guess me. So yeah, April Hill, the creator, the underscore creator, on Instagram, and yeah, just I'm on all different shows on Fable 42. So yeah,
Yeah,
there's stuff.
lots of stuff.
Plus One Crafting on Instagram and very occasionally Twitter. And actually, I forgot to mention earlier, I have an Etsy store. Link is in my IG account.
Links in chat.
Oh, nice. Links in chat. Or you can find me, posting memes and talking shit in the Discord channel.
Yep.
For me, you can find me on Twitch, where you're at now, for different games, Discord as well, and the tag at DM Jarpo, which I rarely really use. I need to do more of that for Twitter and Instagram, but busy man.
Life.
Sometimes life gets in the way, and I just haven't gotten into doing it all the time.
Yep.
But you can still find me around, mostly Discord. That's where you got to find me. Message me on Discord, in the Fable 42 Discord community channel server thing.
Yep. Thank you all so much. You can find me at Fable 42. This is my life. And DM Chris Solo. I'm starting to get back into video game streaming. We've built a server and village in Survive the Nights, which we're starting to build out, which is kind of fun. But just something to take my brain off of D&D for like an hour a week, maybe. But go ahead and enter raffle in the chat, in the live Twitch chat, only to enter in our Between Show giveaway. I will pick the winner during the announcements during the Wizards of Ukador, which starts in about 25 minutes. So without further ado, we will see you guys next time.
Bye.